everyone, my name's Jess. I'm going to go through a turkey and chorizo meatball recipe. It's really quick, really easy to do, and then just some either fresh pasta or dried pasta, and then a simple veggie tomato sauce to just coat all the pasta in with. I hope you really enjoy it. It is something that you can make up all the meatballs and then you can freeze them if you want and come back to them and have them a different day. Or you could cook so many of them and save a few portions. You can double up the recipe and make a massive batch. It's completely up to you. But yeah, so basically it is some turkey mince, and then there is, so that's just one pack, 500 gram pack. And then we have 80 grams of chorizo, which I've just diced up into some little cubes. You can buy the ring and then cut it up yourself, or you can actually buy it in packets just already cut up into little cubes. Also, I think in some supermarkets they do sell it diced frozen. I've used that before, but I haven't seen it in loads of supermarkets, so it just depends on what you can get really, or what you prefer to use. Then I also put 40 grams of grated cheese in them, and then we have Italian herbs or mixed herbs. So I put 1 teaspoon of that, 1.5 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of chili powder or cayenne pepper or Cajun seasoning or anything like that that you quite like, that you have in the cupboard maybe, that you just give it a bit of a kick, and then salt and pepper as well. So I've already just put that into a little pot already to sort of go. But yeah, we'll get on with making the meatballs. So I've just put into this bowl the 500 gram pack of turkey mince, and then I'm going to add the diced 80 grams of chorizo to that, and just sort of give that a mix up. You can do it with a spoon if you don't like. I tend to just use my hands for it. This recipe does make about somewhere between 20 to 24 meatballs. It depends how big you want them. I mean, you could make really big ones and it would make less, or you could make really tiny ones. It's completely up to you. It's absolutely your preference. The advantage of using turkey mince over beef mince is just a little bit less fat than beef mince. Can tend to be a little bit more healthier for you. I mean, we have added chorizo, which has obviously got a lot of natural oils in, but equally these meatballs don't have any breadcrumbs in, so they are gluten-free. There's no egg in them. So yeah, they just kind of sort of bind by themselves. I've used a 2% fat turkey mince. You can normally get like 2, 5 or 7, I think. It just sort of varies. So I'm just adding in these spices in there now and just sort of mix those through. So that's 1 teaspoon of mixed herbs, 1.5 teaspoons of smoked paprika, and then 1 teaspoon of chili or cayenne or anything like that that you'd like, and just give that sort of a mix through completely until it's nice and combined together. And then I just add the grated cheese into there as well and give that all a mix through. So it's really nice, the cheese running through them when they're cooked. Just give it a really nice taste. I've also used this same mix without putting the grated cheese in and made them into 4 burgers. So with the same spices, the chorizo and everything, made them with 4 burgers. And then when I'm making the burgers, I just cut a cube of cheese and put the cheese into the centre of the burger. And then when they're cooked, oh, so nice. Really, really nice. So this has nearly all come together. I'm going to add some salt and pepper and some garlic as well to this, just to give it some extra flavour. In terms of the spice and stuff, I mean, you can use whatever you like. Turkey can tend to go a little bit dry, and is a little bit bland, so I try and use a lot of spices and different seasonings just to make sure it's got loads of flavour and make them really, really juicy and nice. So that's that. I'm just going to grab some pepper. So yeah, it's just about 1/4 teaspoon of cracked black pepper, and then the same with the salt. I mean, you have got the chorizo in there, so that's going to have some salt in it anyway. So I just washed my hands because I'd forgotten to get the garlic out of the fridge. So we buy this easy garlic, you can get it in really big tubs. I bought a massive tub once from Costco, really big, catering size, took up nearly the whole fridge. But we do use a lot of garlic. I prefer it rather than cutting cloves of garlic and then using a garlic crush, just because we use it quite a lot. It is really handy, it's in most of the supermarkets, so I'm just going to add a teaspoon of that to the mix. And I think the conversion is 1 teaspoon of the easy garlic for 1 clove of garlic. It's sort of the generic rule of thumb when using this stuff. But yeah, it's really good. I recommend it. So I'll just give that a mix through. Just to cover all and mix in all of the meatballs. But yeah, this is a lovely like midweek family meal, and it, you know, it's just, yeah, just really nice. And in terms of like, I mean, you could just literally get double the amount of quantities, and you're doing it just in one process, one time. It's the same amount of time to make double, 3 times the amount, and then you can just put them in the freezer, and then just get them out to have as a meal at any point within a few weeks time. So now that's all mixed in and ready, I'm going to start shaping these into meatballs and just put them onto a plate, ready for frying in the pan. So I'm going to cook them, just seal them off in a pan and then take them out, put them into another bowl or something like that for the time being, and then we'll start on making the pasta sauce in that same frying pan. And then once we've added the chopped tomatoes and everything, we add those chicken meatballs back into the pan just to finish off their cooking. So yeah, I'll get on with the rolling. I'm going to try and make the 24, but we'll see how we go. It just depends sometimes. Sometimes, you know, it's not a science, you don't want to start weighing each meatball. But yeah, so you just sort of make them into an average meatball size, sort of something like that, and you're good to go. So I've finished rolling all of the meatballs up, so I didn't quite get the 24, we managed 20, so that's 5 meatballs per person, because this recipe serves 4, but like I said, you can just double it up, make more if you want, or yeah. So that's the 20 meatballs. They can be covered with cling film if you like, and then sit in your fridge if you want to make these in the morning before you go to work, or the evening before, or something like that. They'll be fine to sit in the fridge for a day. If you'd then like to just put these on a baking tray, so if you were going to freeze them, just get a baking tray, space them out relatively, you know, just even, so they're not touching on the baking tray basically. And then put them into the freezer flat, let those seal on the outside, and then once they've just taken that initial freeze, say for after half an hour, an hour, you can just take them off the tray, put them into a plastic bag, and then you can just keep them there then, just stored in that bag, lot better space-wise in your freezer. And then you can just get them out individually rather than them all being stuck together, so you can just get out as many as you need. So yeah, we can get on with cooking these now. So before we get on with the cooking of the meatballs, I'm going to chop the veg ready to go in after the meatballs come out, ready for the pasta sauce. So I tend to use peppers and mushrooms, about 1 pepper and about 100 grams of mushrooms, but that is to make the recipe for 2 people. So if you're making it for 4, then 2 peppers and 200 grams of mushrooms. You can swap the veg as well if you prefer something else. You don't like mushrooms or you don't like peppers. You know, any veg will sort of work if you want to put in sweet corn or broccoli or some sugar snap peas, anything like that. Just sort of substitute the quantities. So I'm just going to slice all of those up and get those ready, and then we'll get on with the cooking of the meatballs. So I've moved over to the frying pan and I've got the meatballs here ready. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of the oil. Again, like I said, you could use spray oil if you prefer to use that. I'm just going to add about a teaspoon in there. Make sure that the pan gets nice and hot and the oil gets hot as well. before adding them in. Just tilting the pan just to get a nice covering of the oil. So the pan's all nice and hot now, so I'm just going to add these in. I'm only going to put 10 in for now. I'm going to freeze the other 10 for us to have another day for dinner. Just checking that there's still 10 on the plate. So I'm just going to basically let these cook for 3 to 5 minutes. I'm just going to use some tongs just to basically turn them around and just basically make sure that all of the outsides are just seared. And then I'm going to take those out and put them onto a different plate, not the same plate because of the whole raw cooked meat. Just put those onto a different plate, and then we can start making the pasta sauce. So they will just start to go change colour on the outside, almost like a brown grey sort of colour. You just want to sear them off. There's no worry about cooking them completely the whole way through, because we are going to add them back into our tomato sauce just to carry on and finish off their cooking internally. It's just to give them that nice exterior on the outside, basically. So these are cooked off just nicely. I'm going to take these out of the pan and put them in this bowl on the side here. And then I'm going to keep all of those lovely juices and the oil, because there's been oil that's come out of the chorizo, and that's going to make the pasta sauce taste really, really good. So once these are out, so I'm going to go in now with all of the veg. So I've left all of that lovely flavour that's come out of the meatballs in the pan. So I'm going to add the mushrooms, add the peppers, get all of that in. And just let that cook off now for about 3 to 5 minutes until it's all starting to soften. So the veg has all been cooking now for about 3 to 5 minutes. I've added a teaspoon of the easy garlic and also a teaspoon of easy chilli, or you could use a chopped chilli. I just quite like spice and garlic. Now I've let that cook for a minute. So now I'm going to add in the chopped tomatoes. So if it was a serves for, it would be 2 tins of chopped tomatoes, or in this case it's just a serves 2, so I'm just going to add in the 1 tin of chopped tomatoes. So in they go. And I normally add as well about a 50ml splash of some hot water in there, and then just give that a stir through and let that simmer for about 3 minutes and just let it all kind of heat through. So I've added the chopped tomatoes into the pan and 50ml of water, and I'm just going to give that a stir through, and that's all just coming to the simmer now. So I'm going to add the meatballs back into the pan at this stage just to carry on cooking through. And then I'll let that all cook for about 10 minutes. So while those meatballs are just cooking through and carrying on cooking, and the sauce is all coming together, I have heated up a pan of hot water. So I'm going to use fresh pasta. So you can buy this in the chilled section of the supermarket, or you, at the moment actually, with everything that's going on, fresh pasta is a lot easier to get than dried pasta. And it does last a really long time in your fridge. It can last for like, normally the date is about a month on the fresh pasta, and equally you can freeze it. So if you're not using the whole bag, that's fine, it can be frozen. So actually it's got a really long shelf life, more than people think. So the quantities vary depending on whether you're using dried pasta or fresh pasta. So I'll put those on the recipe so that you know for what you're going to be using, if you're using dried or whether you're using fresh. So I've got fresh tagliatelle for this, and it only takes about 4 minutes to cook fresh pasta. So I'm going to wait until there's 4 minutes left on the meatballs, and then I'm going to add that into the pan. So I've just drained the pasta off and then put it back into the initial pan. And now I'm going to just add 2 2 big metal spoons of the pasta sauce into that and give that a stir through. It really helps the pasta to stop sticking together and going really claggy. And then pop that into the bowls and then top it with the rest of the sauce and the meatballs. Okay, so just going to put the pasta out into these bowls here. So this is what it sort of looks like once you've added a couple of the large spoons of the sauce. It just really stops it from all sticking together, and it means that it's all got a bit of a nice coat onto it. So once that's out, I'm going to put the rest of the sauce on top. So now I've just got the meatballs and the rest of the sauce. I'm just going to pop those on top. So here's the final product. So I've put the rest of the sauce on and the meatballs on top. That's what it all looks like. So I will add the nutritional content of this, but like I said, with it being turkey mince, it is a bit lower in fat than using beef, even despite having the chorizo in there. But it's a really tasty, really nice midweek meal, really quick to put together, and lots of options to keep things stored in the freezer ready for a quick dinner another day. So I really hope you enjoy it.